Alright, so nonconformity is failure or refusal to conform to a prevailing rule or practice. Nonconformity is someone marching to a different beat, which can at sometimes be very difficult. Showing nonconformity could be in arguments and or conversations about a certain topic with a group of friends. It could also be the changing the way someone acts around a certain group of people and the way to make them fit in around a group of friends. And while another person may not change the way they act around a group of people to make a certain group of friends. For example, in Self-Reliance by Ralph Emerson, it explains why some people may change their personality to be accepted by a group of people. Show envy played a big part throughout the pastors because people may see someone else having having a lot of more friends and popularity. So to make friends with them, they may change their personality. And during the passage, it said, "There is a time in every man's education on where he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide." So basically, what it explains that imitating someone else to make a group of friends is a suicide to yourself, which is basically killing your own personality. Another example of nonconformity is in civil disobedience. With Henry makes a statement by saying that the government is best governed not at all. So when he says that, he gives specific examples on why the government puts a bad look on American and American people. But most people think that the American government makes America look great. And here he says that he uses examples why the government makes America look bad. And he says that the Mexican War should have been the decision of man, which was the people of America, instead of the government. The risk of nonconformity could be the failure to get a point across to a group of people without showing evidence or examples. For example, some people may think that LeBron is a better player than Michael Jordan, but without showing examples and evidence, stats, which would be the evidence to show this statement could make it difficult to have a precise argument on why LeBron is better than Michael Jordan.
Nonconformity is a failure to comply with someone else. If a man doesn't want to keep pace with his own compassions, perhaps it is because he hears the beat to a different drummer. How far away or measure? It is difficult to beat to a different drummer when you want to risk standing alone for pride and success. This equates to the resistance of independence that can be seen as a similar protest to the call of actions by the individuals that will develop their own thoughts, practices, styles, and convictions that accompany their own achievements and success. The view of individualism surrenders their own captivity to be an individual, or they surrender their own predetermined mindset to make their own thoughts, innovations, and a way of life for the things people with great influence reveal to them that they need. You are now the public enemy. You are something that went wrong. You are considered no more than trouble. You become something that is a mistake. You will become easily targeted. As Emerson stated from his speech, Nature, so will you be misjudged like King and Galileo, Gandhi, and Newton. To be incredible is to be misconceived and misunderstood. This is a real unexpected truth as given through past experience and examples. Sadly, it might be. This may bring you to regards, yet it shows the world will never acknowledge you as a person until it comes out of its fundamental attitude. It isn't rocket science how you do you, but like Henry David Thoreau said, it is best to do you for yourself than the image of others portray you to be.
Nonconformity is the act of being yourself and not aligning to the socially acceptable standards in today's society. In most cases, it is difficult for someone to march to to the beat of a different drummer and stand on their own as an individual, because not everyone can handle the consequences that come with being a nonconformist. Nonconformists value the importance of being themselves and doing what's best for them as they go down this journey of finding what makes them comfortable. Examples of nonconformists are activists, artists, writers, fashion designers, and inventors. They all have something in common. They all have to use their creativity to create pieces of art that makes them happy. People who think standing up for what they believe in is more important than fitting into a society or group of any kind makes them a nonconformist. In the text from Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson, he talks about the importance of being a nonconformist and the importance of being an individual. In the text, there was a quote in the first paragraph saying, "That thou, the wide universe, is full of good. No kernel of nourishing corn can come to him, but through his toil bestow on that plot ground which is given to him to till." Meaning he can only use what he has to be himself, because it's important to accept yourself and use what you have because you really don't have anything else. Individuality, independence, and an appreciation for the wonders of nature were all principles of Mr. Emerson's work that he wanted to instill in our nation's identity. Another quote from Self-Reliance that caught my eye was, "Nothing is less sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Absolve yourself and you shall have the suffrage of the world," which means you have to value your own opinion and don't let the opinions of others affect your opinion. You have to realize your self-worth, and you will have a lot more opportunities for knowledge and personal growth. More examples were given in many of the texts we read as a group. From the text from Walden by Henry David T, such as, "I had not lived there a week before my feet wore a path from my door to the pond side, and though it was 5 or 6 years since I trod it, it is still quite distinct. I fear that others may have fallen into it and so help to keep it open." This quote means to me that we all fall into our complex routines of daily life and we make a beaten track for ourselves. And the quote also means once a way of life or path is made, it is easier for others to follow it. Walden's work was a blend of natural observation, social criticism, and physiological insight. I also believe the text innovations in their inventions is also an example of nonconformity, because the text talks about how certain inventors made certain things people would never think of, which helps society in a big way. So being a nonconformist can have a positive impact or a negative impact. Being a nonconformist can make you lose friends and support, and in some cases you could lose your life. On the bright side, you learn how to love yourself more, and you learn about your own unique individualism. I could gather examples from every text me and my group read, but that could go on for days. In conclusion, nonconformity is honestly about a person doing their own thing and learning about themselves in ways they cannot learn if they conform to the society we live in today.
I was not born to be forced. I will breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is strongest. That quote shows nonconformity because it shows how he was his own individual and did his own. That quote also shows nonconformity because, as he says, I was not born to be forced. That means he was not born to be put on this earth to be forced to do anything at somebody's will. He is able to do his own thing and show out in his own way. Here's another quote. There will never be a really free and enlightened state until the state comes to recognize the individual as a higher and independent power from which all of its own power and authority are delivered. This shows nonconformity because they show that how they've been individuals and they've been showing their power and self-reliance and building their own state. Another quote is, "For it matters not how small the beginning may seem to be, what is once well done is done forever." This is an example of nonconformity because it stands out about no matter how small the beginning seems, you will never be free unless you trust and believe that you are truly free. In the public arena, individuality is characterized as an inability to act like others or do things others individuals do. Nonconformity is a demonstration of acting naturally and doing things any other way from the ordinary, and furthermore, nonconformity is being an alternative individual of the planet and living for yourself in an alternative manner from others that will assist you with standing out. I show rebelliousness from multiple points of view by being my own individual and remaining to myself every day. Here's an example of how I showed nonconformity when I was on my football team. I showed nonconformity by doing a technique that was easier for me to help myself than others. This helped me get more touchdowns, and it helped with everyone else when I showed them. But in the long run, everyone else still didn't get my way. They still had to use their own way and to get their own form of getting the information. I showed nonconformity at my job when I provided a way to make the senior citizens enjoy their time at their stay while they stay at the nursing home. By telling them great stories and making up great games, I made them very comfortable and helpful of their living. By me being very comfortable with telling them stories, I feel like I did nonconformity by standing out, because everyone else thinks old people is lame and not able to talk to all the time. I think that's the opposite. I feel like I can talk to anybody that I can to tell great stories to.
So, nonconformity is when you fail to do what other people do and when you fail to act how other people act. So basically, it's being yourself and standing out as a unique individual as one. So I show nonconformity by being myself and standing to myself each day and doing things differently from my fellow peers. In my art class, I show nonconformity by picking an image that described my daily life, and it was a very unique one that told the history of it. And my teacher thought it was very unique because it stood out and gave her a clear understanding of my life, better than what the other kids presented to her. So nonconformity can be shown many ways, through movies, shows, anything. So the movie I once saw, The Incredibles, they showed nonconformity because the characters had different powers and capabilities of doing things that the other people in the movie couldn't do. Also, the show I watched called Breaking Image, they showed nonconformity by being controlled by people, but like they broke that cycle and started living their life how they wanted. Unlike other people who was controlling their cycle, they lived their life how they wanted and stood out more to change and live a better life. I also once watched the movie The Hunger Games, where the character Katniss Everdeen showed nonconformity by not following the authority. She stood out more and basically followed her own set of rules that got her through with a win in the battle. So in the passage Civil Disobedience, the quote stated, "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams," basically saying that he took a different route for his dreams that would help him, that was easier and that would help him fulfill his dreams easily. He took a different route from others that made him reach his dreams easier and made him stand out. I also took a quote from Self-Reliance, and the quote stated, "Whoso would be a man must be a whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist," basically saying that one who is a man must be his own self and stand as one. He can't rely on another man. He has to be himself and rely on himself and doing things differently from others because he is one. I also used another quote from Self-Reliance that stated, "He may as well concern himself with his shadow on the wall," saying that he can reflect on himself and do things. A man can reflect on himself and do things differently from what other men can do. They can look on themselves, call on themselves, to basically support themselves and not looking for help from other men. They can rely on themselves. So basically, nonconformity can be seen in different ways, from shows, from what you see on television, movies, people in our daily life, and just situations in our history, in our past history that has happened. So that's the end of